What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into a double video. We've got a post-game recap and a trade deadline recap. So that means I've got to bring in some reinforcements, or at least for today, a reinforcement, as MarinersSUR is joining me to break down the Mariners' huge win over the Boston Red Sox today, along with some discussion about the final day of the trade deadline and just an overall view of the Mariners trade deadline. Before I go any further, do me a favor. Smash the like button. Do another favor. Hit subscribe if you're new or just lurking here, and comment your thoughts down below. Also, I will have MarinersSUR's Twitter linked down below. I encourage all of you to give him a follow on Twitter. One of the most knowledgeable, in-depth, and level-headed Mariner fans you will find on that app. How you doing today, my friend? Good win. I think a decent trade deadline. How you feeling?
Yeah, doing well. Like you said before the video, I think I feel the same way. Kind of, rejuvenated after the deadline, some new faces in town, and then a great win today to cap it off. So feeling really good.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up the box score here. Mariners win today 10-6. They defeat the Boston Red Sox. They even the series at one game apiece. It looks like Pittsburgh is close to holding on to beating Houston. That would put the Mariners one game up in the division. And yeah, we talked before the video. I think a solid trade deadline. We'll get into that a little bit more. I think maybe you could have gotten one more piece, but overall, I feel pretty good about it. And a great win today. The offense is playing better. I feel rejuvenated with this team. I feel kind of back in, which could be dangerous. But another 10 runs today for the offense. Since the start of the White Sox series, they have scored 10, 16, 22, 29, 39 runs over their last 5 games.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah, it's been, even last night they lose and post 7 runs. So, yeah, the offense has been very refreshing the last 5 games. And I know, Red Sox pitching hasn't been great lately, but over the course of the season, they've been pretty good. I haven't looked at their stats lately, but I know they were kind of the talk of town for the first half. So, and even the White Sox, right? They threw 3 pretty good rotation arms at us. So, yeah, we've been hitting some good pitching, which is great to see.
Yeah, and the strikeouts even down, only 6 strikeouts today, 3 walks. And yeah, like I said, they've hit some better pitching with the White Sox series. Paxton's numbers are okay. You go look at the Savant page. He's been pretty bad this year. But you know what? The Mariners get, 6 runs off him in 4 1/3. Now, 3 of them are earned. Boston's defense had some moments there in that 5th inning. But you did what you need to do, right? You put runs on the board. And how many times have we sat there? I can't tell how many post-game recaps I did where it's like, random starting pitcher that's mediocre, that has a career high in strikeouts and throws 6 shutout innings against the Mariners. And it feels, since they've added a Rosarino, we'll talk a little about Justin Turner too, that it just, we talk about me and you feel rejuvenated. The offense feels a little rejuvenated.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it looks like a team's playing with different confidence and energy, which is great to see.
And then, really for the first time, I don't want to say for the first time this year, and I thought Luis Castillo threw the ball pretty well. 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts in Fenway Park is really solid. But it was nice to see the offense. I don't want to say they bailed him out because he pitched well, but gets down 3-1. I know we were messaging each other. It was kind of like, here we go. This series is going to be a disaster. And it was really great to see the offense actually sort of, again, I don't want to use bailout because Castillo was solid, but it was nice to see the offense step back up and turn this game into a bit of a blowout.
Yep, absolutely.
What were your thoughts? Now, the only thing that got a little dicey here for the Mariners in the 7th inning, up 10-3, Taylor Saucedo comes up. He hits Rafaela. That's frustrating. But other than that, Duran gets a little infield hit. Devers' hit was just lightly hit up the middle. Snyder gives up a ball that was hit hard by Tyler O'Neill, but it gets through. And I think Dom Smith put one off the wall as well. Makes it a closer game. I had no problem, even in a 4-run lead here, going to Jimmy Garcia and Munoz in Fenway Park. Are you in the same boat there?
Yeah, I agree for a few reasons. One, like we're right behind them in the wild card. I think we split with them early in the year, so you have to take 2 or 3 to have that tiebreaker. And then in addition, we have a day off Thursday. Neither of them threw yesterday, so I think the thought is, hey, we can use them today and tomorrow, off day Thursday, so there wasn't that risk of, using them in a 4-run game and then not having them available in a closer game because you can throw them twice and then get the day off. So yeah, no issue with it. Like I said, it's a big kind of head-to-head game against the Red Sox. So exactly what I would have done. And even the bullpen was thin after yesterday. I guess in theory, you could maybe gave Santos a chance, but he hasn't been great. So I think Scott did the right thing there with even a kind of a little bit unconventional to 4-run lead, but makes complete sense to me. Because yeah, in that park, a 4-run lead can vanish very quickly.
Yeah, and it almost did. Well, I shouldn't say the 4-run lead, the 7-run lead almost vanished. Right. And yeah, I think at this point Garcia is kind of above Santos in the pecking order. Yep. It looked like they were both getting warm there. I think had they scored a run, 5-run lead, he may have gone to Santos there, but it looks like Garcia is a little more trusted right now, which I agree with. I think Garcia's just looked more polished, and I think 100%. Santos will be fine. It's just taking a little time to, get back in the swing of things a little bit. But yeah, I think when you're in Fenway Park, you're playing a team that's in contention with you. You've got to get the W. There's no guarantee about tomorrow. And truthfully, for tomorrow, Snyder should be fine. You have both. I can't imagine Garcia, who only threw 11 pitches, and even Munoz, pretty stress-free ninth. I think if you had to, they'd all be available tomorrow.
Yep, absolutely.
And again, we'll get into the trade deadline, but man, how good has Jimmy Garcia been?
Oh, he's incredible. When we faced the Blue Jays this year and he's been in, he's always felt kind of unhittable to me. I think I read he's like one of the few relievers that has 5 pitches. He's mid to upper 90s, tax hitters, doesn't walk him. So yeah, he's a guy you feel very, very confident with when he's in the game. So I think that was a great addition in the 8th inning, because that's been an issue for us all year. And so I think he really kind of plugs that hole well. So yeah, he's been kind of as advertised. So I've been very impressed with him in his, I think, 3 outings so far.
Yeah, sometimes guys come over, they just don't find it right away. I mean, Garcia has come in right away to the point, like, bases loaded, nobody out in the 7th inning. Like, I have zero qualms going to him in that situation at all. He has been absolutely lights out, throw strikes, get strikeouts, and that's what you need in Fenway Park. You've got to have guys, especially with that lefty lineup, you've got to be able to miss bats. And I think we saw a little of the downside with it. I like Taylor Saucedo. And again, I think he was BABIP to death a little bit here, but when you can't quite miss the bats as much, you're susceptible to those innings, unfortunately.
Yep, definitely. So it'll be, we'll get into the deadline, but Chargois, I think that's a guy, if he was in the fold, he maybe throws the 7th inning. He's another, hopefully kind of reliable arm as well. But yeah, no, bullpen I feel a lot better about for sure.
And just an update for everybody, since we're doing this, recording it, but the Pirates 5-2 lead over Houston, top of the 8th. We will keep you posted for studio updates on that. So huge win for the Mariners. They improved to 57-52 on the season. Chance to get a big series win tomorrow with George Kirby on the mound. So you feel good there. It would also get you the tiebreaker over Boston if the wild card, the wild card's in play, but if it's certainly something where Houston wins the division and it's back in play, it would be huge to have that tiebreaker over Boston. And Kansas City is up 4-3 on Chicago just to keep tabs of the wild card. Let's transition a little bit. Obviously a great win. Celebrate it, guys and gals. It is never a bad thing to celebrate your team winning. This has been a nice road trip for the Mariners. Now 4-1 here before a tough series coming up with Philly. Hopefully they can finish it off tomorrow and make this a fantastic road trip. Let's talk a little bit about the trade deadline. Obviously the kind of bigger news today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make a video, just working today and everything. Wanted to kind of do a live stream, couldn't do it. Not a lot of moves today for the Mariners. In fact, only JT Chargois added. Could be a nice piece to the bullpen. We've seen him before, an old friend. Decent numbers this year. The FIP and the Savant page don't look great, but the ERA is good, and it's a small sample size this year for him as well in 16 innings. But pretty quiet today. But overall, I guess, what's your thoughts on the Mariners trade deadline?
Yeah, I was happy with it. Obviously going into it, there's quite a few holes that we needed to address. So, kind of starting from the jump, getting Randy Arozarena was, at the time, I thought it was very, very significant. A veteran hitter that has been in the battles, and it seems like the higher the stakes, the better he performs. So, and even from like the first game he was in the lineup, it made the lineup just on paper look that much more lethal. So was really excited about that. And then as the, deadline unfolded, it turned out he was probably one of the best 2 or 3 hitters that was moved. And so I think that move even looks better now, considering just kind of the lack of impact hitters moved. In terms of like what we gave up, Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins, I think are both very, very good prospects, but once again, neither of them were in our top 10. So that move as a whole, loved it. And then, Jimmy Garcia, once again, I mean, one of the best relievers moved. Jerry kind of jumped the market there. I don't think we gave up a ton. I know he's a free agent at the end of the year, and we gave up Jonathan Clase, who I think maybe realistically will be like a 4th outfielder. So I don't think it'll come back to burn you a ton. I say that, and he's only 21 years old, so who knows? He could develop and turn into a beast, but we're going for it this year, so I think it was just kind of the price you have to pay. And then Justin Turner, I think he's not going to light the world on fire, but he's a veteran at bat that, doesn't strike out. A guy you can kind of just plug in that 5 or 6 hole, and he's going to be very, very competitive up there, get the ball in play, and I think make some things happen. And once again, we didn't really give up much there. Then, JT, just a good bullpen piece, I think. So I think those 4 guys all can add an impact. I would have loved, 1 or 2 more. I think with Gabe Spire not being what he's been, and Saucedo's just not a leveraged lefty in my mind, like Andrew Chafin, I would have loved. I think adding like another dynamic lefty would have maybe been a good idea. And I don't think the cost was huge for Chafin. So I do wish we would have did something there. And then obviously another bat, like Yandy Diaz and Vlad were the 2 big names, but they weren't moved. So I don't think they were necessarily feasible when it came down to it. But at the same time, like somebody like, I don't know, Tommy Pham or Josh Bell in that DH spot, I think would have been a worthwhile addition. And then, on the infield, Dylan Moore's been fine at shortstop, but just another depth piece there like Ahmed Rosario or IKF, I think would have been prudent. But overall, I think we were probably maybe the most improved team in the AL. Obviously, our lineup was one of the worst in baseball, so we had the most kind of work to do. I think it was a successful deadline. I'd give it, probably a B plus. If they would have made those 2 more moves, it's an A plus. If they make 1 more, I think it's probably an A minus. But overall, I think they did a lot of great things. Once again, got one of the best bats and relievers that were out there. So I think that's a huge bonus. And then 2 other functional pieces as well. And like I said, not giving up. I wasn't really worried about like prospect hoarding, but we did keep our top 10 prospects, which is, just kind of an added bonus. But yeah, overall in the lineup now, especially when Julio is back, I think is competitive and lethal enough on paper if the guys perform, to their ability. And before the deadline, we just weren't there at all. It was a lineup that had a lot of glaring holes, but that's been shored up quite a bit. And especially with Polanco hitting now, I know he wasn't an addition, but he's been on fire for a little while now. So I think the top 6 hitters, I feel good about it. And even 7, 8, 9, I think can be competitive. So yeah, I was very, very happy with it. What about you? And Pirates are up 6-2 now, it looks like.
Yeah, McCutchen walked with the bases loaded. I think the inning just ended, though. So 6-2 heading the bottom of the 8th there. We will keep you posted. I feel like I'm in the studio. But, yeah, no, I agree with everything you said on the deadline. I think you could always say, like, hey, there's a couple things they could have done. I don't know if you can ever be fully satisfied. I would have been a little mad had Vlad gone somewhere else or had Yandy Diaz. Had Yandy Diaz gone to Houston, I'd probably change my tune a little bit. I'm with you, kind of a BB plus. Might go down to a B minus C plus just because, you never know what teams are looking for. But, we talked about, it sounds like the Rays wanted like MLB ready pitching for Yandy Diaz. And for the Mariners, the only one they have not in the rotation right now is Emerson Hancock. And I don't think you even said it before, not to, steal your line there, but I don't think that's going to move the needle to get Yandy Diaz. Bryce Miller might, but you train Bryce Miller. I'm not right now. Maybe in the offseason, that's something you can do. But I think in season, you really can't give up much from the major league team. And I'm with you. Like the Mariners added what I think is a top 2-3 bat that was traded at this deadline. If you want to say number 1, I won't fight you. I think a top 2-3 reliever that was traded this deadline. And you made a great point, Jerry. I think kind of getting out ahead of that. Had Garcia been traded today, I think he would have cost a little bit more. The reliever market got a little crazy there. So I think Jerry did a good job getting out ahead of that. I like Justin Turner a lot. I think you even saw today some of what Justin Turner can provide. Starts against the lefty, goes the other way, gets a base hit in the first inning, gets the Mariners on the board. Cal has a rough at bat there, and I think the 5th inning with the bases loaded, he's up with 1 out. That's been the classic Ty France double play spot.
Yep.
Turner hits it hard. It's a ground ball. I'm not going to jump up and down for a ground ball, but puts it in play, gets the team to lead, probably takes a little bit of the pressure off of them. He's a good clubhouse guy. He's won a World Series. You always use the term cage guy. I love that. Like he's someone that's going to be around there talking to the guys. You saw the little interview he did before coming. He's excited to be here. He's bringing the vibes, the energy. He doesn't strike out, still works his walks. I'm with you. Do I think he's going to set the world on fire? No, but you don't have to have 9, all-stars in the lineup. We just need this offense to go from whatever they are, 26 in WRC plus to, I don't need them necessarily jump up, but the rest of the way be 15th in WRC plus. And, you made another great point about Polanco. You could almost say he's been a deadline acquisition because he seems to have found himself. I said the other day, I'm safely saying he is back And I called for him to be released 2 weeks ago. So that worked, obviously. You're getting good production from Victor Robles. You have Julio coming back. I know Julio's not having his best season, but was swinging the bat pretty well before being hit, before getting hurt and going on the IL. So I think overall, maybe a little bit of meat left on the bone that they could have gotten, but I'll get your take on this, but guys like Vlad, Diaz, Robert, they weren't traded. I can't judge moves that weren't made, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, completely agree. Like the Blue Jays, it seems like under no circumstance we're trading Vlad Guerrero. I think, Yandy Diaz, Rays weren't going to do it unless it was like an offer that was just, dumb to make. And, people might argue that, and I would accept that argument if it was like we're talking about an abundance of minor league players, because you could say, hey, who cares? We're going for it this year. But that wasn't the case. They wanted major league players, and we just don't have the ability on our roster to do that. And so I don't think he was, a realistic option. And then even like, Isak Paredes, right. That was probably the one big bat that was moved that we didn't get. And everything you read says they weren't necessarily interested in dealing him, but they were so high on Christopher Morel that they were willing to do it. They see something in him. I think they believe he can be an Isak Paredes with even more defensive versatility. And we didn't have Morel on the MLB roster to deal them. So I didn't even know if he was a realistic option. Just once again, like Yandy, there's maybe an MLB piece they wanted for him. And like for Yandy, maybe it was Brian Wu or Bryce Miller. But for Paredes, it was, hey, we'll move if we can get Christopher Morel, which they were able to. So I don't think there was like a big bat that we didn't get that we could have necessarily. So you can't, like I said, you can't judge a move that wasn't made if that player wasn't traded, because it just, right. Other teams aren't like, hey, I really wanted, I don't know, Cal Raleigh, right? We should have sent the world to the Mariners for him. Well, the Mariners aren't going to trade Cal Raleigh. It doesn't matter what you're going to send. And that's what it was like for Vlad Guerrero, I think. So it's how it goes. You can't force a team to make a trade if they don't want to.
Yeah, and I would say to fans, like, be mad at Toronto. They're the ones that I'm pretty sure. And listen, maybe something comes out where the Mariners didn't give a good offer and they tried to get Vlad and the Jays were listening and the Mariners kind of lowballed him. Maybe something comes out and I'll change my tune on that and go, hey, if he was available, Jerry should have pushed to get him. I will 100% say that. But man, it really just feels like they weren't moving him. They were keeping Vlad. The White Sox weren't moving Robert. Quite honestly, Robert's kind of, I think, done it to himself a little bit. He's looked kind of like he doesn't want to play right now, and his numbers have dipped a little bit. So I think he was off the books for anybody, and the cost just would have been, so absurd. I think he's someone that gets traded in the offseason when more teams might be involved in that move. And that's the thing, like I said, with Yandy Diaz, if they're wanting major league talent, I think in the offseason, you can look at that because you could say, okay, maybe we do trade Wu and Miller for him. And then, hey, I don't know, like Nick Pivetta is a free agent. I don't know if he is, and we can fill our rotation back in. And Adam, you just don't have time to do that right now.
No.
So deadline acquisitions, like you said, it's just certain guys aren't being moved. Like a team could have offered their top 15 prospects right now for Cal. Mariners would have said no. In the offseason, maybe they'll talk about it because maybe they can maneuver it around. But right now, no, you're not going to do that. You're in contention. You're going to keep those guys. So, unless things come out that we know what was offered and what wasn't, I just can't get up in arms about guys that were not moved. Because other teams couldn't get the deals done either on them. So I think overall the Mariners did really solid. I'm with you. I think another reliever might have helped, especially watching today a little bit. Chafin's a great name. I forgot that he was dealt to, where'd he end up going?
Rangers.
Right. Yeah. Would have been a nice little pickup at the back end there. But at the end of the day, like I just can't lose sleep over those guys. And I know you're in the same boat. It's Andrew Chafin. It's a lot of guys to me that just would have been nice. Like IKF, I think would have been a nice little piece. Ahmed Rosario. But then you look at Dylan Moore today hitting 4 balls off the green monster. He could have had a 3 home run game. So it's not that Dylan Moore is necessarily a trash player either that's sitting there. You did make a great point before we hopped on here that, it might have been nice for depth. If something happens to Demo, then you've got Rivas out there who's actually looks solid, but that might hurt you a little bit. And we're not sure when JP is going to get back in there. But I also think, and I'll get your take on this, I know we kind of said it already, but I think Jerry kind of looked at this and said, okay, a Rosarina fills a need. Jimmy Garcia fills a need. Turner fills a need. Polanco's heating up. Julio's coming back. I know those aren't deadline acquisitions, but it's certainly guys that haven't been playing up to their potential that you'll have in there.
Yeah, completely agree. And I know people kind of hate when others say that, like, oh, Polanco is our big addition. But hey, I mean, in the offseason, a lot of people, most people like the move, right? Not just Mariners fans, but kind of nationwide. It was like, hey, the Mariners are getting a veteran bat that has been through it and always produces if he's healthy. And now the sample size is such that like it looks like he's figured something out. And so I don't think it would have been smart to go get a set unless it was like Brandon Lau. On that I can maybe stomach and then move Polanco to, in which maybe that would have been something to do and move Polanco to DH because that's still a little bit of a hole. But Brandon Lau wasn't moved, so I don't even know if there was really a second baseman that was moved that really would have moved the needle. So yeah, I mean I agree. These with Julio swinging it before he got hurt and Polanco on a big time heater, that's two guys I think I feel pretty good about the rest of the way. And so in my mind, 2 weeks ago, those were holes. Obviously, you weren't going to do anything about Julio, but yeah, second base, it was, I think, a glaring need at one point, but I don't think it is now. And yeah, he could kind of fall on his face again. I don't know if that'll happen. I don't think so, but I just think that with his track record and what he's done recently, it was worth the roll of the dice to keep Polanco at second base, especially since nobody, like I said, was really moved at second that Jazz, I guess, would be the one name. Yeah. But yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, Jazz might be the one guy that I could maybe go, maybe you could have pulled that off too. But now we're kind of moving the needle too. Like I said, I'm with, and it looks like the Astros fly out to end the eighth, so they'll head to the ninth, trailing Pittsburgh 6-2. Right, let's go. I feel like this is like game 162 here. But yeah, like if they would have done that, sure, then we're talking A+ deadline, and neither of us are giving this A+. I think it's a B+. I actually think when you look around the league, if you're on a curve, I actually don't think an A- would be terrible. Now, when you kind of look around everything, but I'll kind of stick B+. So there's obviously always a little bit more you wish your team would do occasionally. But I think when you look around the league, you look at the division. Another great point, I think Jerry mentioned, or it might have been you, and then Jerry actually reiterated that not one top 100 prospect was traded at this deadline.
Yeah, which is crazy. And that just speaks to, I think, the lack of impact guys that were traded. It just didn't happen. Like you said, grading the deadline on the curve, I agree with. Because you look at the Astros, they went and got, Yusei Kikuchi, and you remove like the return they gave up because it was obnoxious. But Yusei hasn't been good at all lately, and he's been kind of this up and down pitcher in his career. And so, yeah, they improved their rotation, but I don't know by how much, right? Because we've seen Yusei where he gets to be unpitchable. And now I'm looking at their lineup. They've got, John Singleton, they're going to be rolling with at first base the rest of the way. They traded Joey Loperfido away, and now, Trey Cabbage or Mauricio Dubon or, Chas McCormick are going to be in the corners for him. So they left a couple what I'd consider, pretty glaring holes wide open as well. And I think they added like a lefty reliever that was just DFA'd. So if you consider the two teams, I mean, the Mariners got drastically better than the Astros did. What are the Rangers do? They added
Carson Kelly.
Chafin. Do they add a starting pitcher too? I
don't think they got Carson Kelly as kind of a backup catcher.
That's right, Kelly.
Andrew Chafin. And I don't think they added a starting pitcher unless it was somebody they actually traded Michael Lorenzen.
That's right.
I don't know how he's been doing this year. Yeah.
Tyler Mahle coming back, and I think DeGrom expects to be back in like mid to late August. And the Astros, right, they'll have Verlander back soon, and Luis Garcia and Kyle Tucker. Yep. But I think I read or saw a comment today from their GM that they expect Tucker back like by September. So he's still maybe a month away. So for them, they can't that corner outfield spot that Trey Cabbage is occupying, that's going to be who it is for a while. And Tucker's already had tons of setbacks, so he even knows if he'll make it back. I mean, we just don't know. So, yeah, I mean, I like where the Mariners are at on paper with the roster. I really, really do.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, none of the top 100 prospects are traded, which just speaks to kind of the quality of player that was out there. Truthfully, to get Randy Arozarena without giving up a top 100 prospect is pretty insane, to be perfectly honest. The kind of impact bat I think that he is, that we've already seen for this ball club. And yeah, you look around the division, these teams didn't have the farm systems to make these moves. And I'm with you. I'm not a prospect hoarder by any means. Like, I would have had no problem with a huge haul for Vlad Guerrero Jr. I could have stomached that. I could have stomached a Laz Montez, Cole Young, I don't know. I'm not good with trades and what it takes, all the time, but I could have stomached it. But those guys weren't traded. You got impact players, and you do keep a really good farm system intact. So the Mariners still have those bullets in there for the offseason, for next trade deadline, or guys that can come up and play for the Mariners and have an impact. So I think when you take a step back, and also the Astros sound like at the end there, they were close to Yandy Diaz, or at least they were the front runners, and then they don't get them. So again, I don't like to judge moves that don't happen, but from their perspective, they're thinking, okay, we're going to get Yandy. And then it's kind of, no, you're not. It's a little bit of a blow there for them, I'm sure. I've got Astros people to watch, so let me know, in the comments what you think. And I still think the Astros are a formidable team, and it's going to be a dogfight in this division. And like you said, that they're probably looking at it the same way. Like, okay, we add Kikuchi, we get Verlander back, we get Garcia, Tucker. But to your point, we know how it's like with injuries. Look at Gregory Santos, just hasn't really found his footing yet. It's not easy to slide back in and be a huge, make a huge impact, essentially. Anybody else that you thought maybe had a good trade deadline? Not putting you on the spot there. I sometimes don't follow the rest of the league. So any teams that you really thought kill, you know what, before you answer, actually, last thing I was going to say, another thing for people listening, that third wild card kind of throws everything into haywire too, because you've got teams like, Pittsburgh that's kind of on the cusp. They kind of do a buy sell, and a lot more teams in contention now. And it's teams that haven't been there in a while. So they are going to push to get in.
Yep, completely agree. Like you said, those teams on the fringes are doing kind of the buy sell, but they want MLB players in return. And like Jerry said, we just didn't really have the roster to do that this year. So yeah, it kind of took those options that were on the fringes from those, wild card 3 teams off the plate for us. So in terms of, teams with a good deadline, not super familiar with like NL, but in the AL, I'd say 2 teams. So I would start with the Royals. They got, Hunter Harvey a couple weeks ago, and then Lucas Ursig. So bullpen's been a big issue for them, and they got 2, I think, back-end arms to kind of really solidify that. And then I believe they also added Michael Lorenzen, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And DeYoung, yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah, and DeYoung, too. So, I thought they did a really good job kind of shoring up their pitching. Their hitting still outside of Bob. I haven't looked in a while, but last time it was like kind of Bobby Witt and nothing else. And DeYoung doesn't really fix that, but I mean, he's so damn good that he can carry an offense by himself. And now they have good pitching, starting, and bullpen. So I don't think they're going to go anywhere, and they're going to play the White Sox so often. So I liked what the Royals did. Then I thought the Orioles had a good trade deadline too with Zach Eflin. Then who was the lefty they got?
Rogers from the Marlins.
Rogers, yeah, and he's been really, really good lately. So I liked what he did. And then they got a couple like pretty live arms from Philly, I think, in Sir Anthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto, a lefty that throws 100. So, they've been kind of up and down in terms of results this year, but the Orioles have been pretty good with bringing relievers in and doing well. So I liked what they did there. And then I don't think Eloy Jimenez will do anything, but they've also brought in guys like Ryan O'Hearn, who tore, Cedric Mullins was nothing. Even like last year, Aaron Hicks came into Baltimore and did well. So they seem to be very, very good with kind of identifying hitters that haven't done well. We know that Eloy Jimenez has, talent somewhere in there. So I like what the Orioles did. They brought in, quite a few players just to kind of broaden their roster. And like I said, the bullpen, I think, could be a lot more dynamic. And then getting those 2 starters. So now they have, Burns, Rodriguez, Rogers, Eflin, and then like 3 guys like Kramer, Suarez, or Cole Orban for that 5th spot. So I think for me, they're probably the favorite. And then the Yankees got Jazz Chisholm, and I don't know if they got anybody else that was notable.
They got
another reliever that I'm trying to blank on, but
I am too now
for them. So I like what the Yankees did as well. But for me, the Orioles and Royals, I thought had a good deadline. Guardians too, they're a good team. But Lane Thomas was a good addition. Then I believe they added a starting pitcher as well. Who there's so many names moving. I'm having a hard time.
Did Lorenzen go to Cleveland?
Who?
Did Lorenzen actually go to Cleveland? Now I'm with you. I know they had this, and I can't remember the names that these teams added. But while you're looking that up, I'll throw another. Actually, Lane Thomas is actually a guy I wouldn't mind the Mariners being in on. Yes. I think that would have been a nice little get too. So just for anybody watching, we're praising the Mariners. We do think there's maybe a little bit of meat on the bone there. There's always going to be though. I thought the Rays actually probably did a smart thing in selling
Yeah.
and kind of setting it there. Truthfully, had the Mariners been a team that was like, let's say they'd made the playoffs 5 years in a row and Houston was running away with the West, I might have actually been interested in seeing the Mariners sell, like just, being in that spot. But we're just so starved for this division that you're tied. You can't sell in that instance. No. So, but another team that puzzled me this deadline, which would have been a perfect trade partner for the Mariners, was the Giants. Yeah. They trade Jorge Soler, then they acquire Mark Canha, and then they don't do anything else because I think Lamont Wade Jr. and I actually think Jerry kind of said there was a couple things that they had their eye on that just kind of I'm paraphrasing here, kind of went down the drain. I wonder if he was talking about Lamont Wade and Yastrzemski.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, they were kind of an interesting case. Like you said, Yastrzemski would have been a good. Once they traded Soler, I kind of figured that might be off the table because I think they kind of had one extra outfielder. Yeah, so I would agree. Those are both kind of puzzling. And it was Alex Cobb, who the Guardians got, who hasn't pitched this year, but when he's on the mound, he's good. They also have Matthew Boyd, who's close to returning as well. And I thought the Angels had kind of a weird deadline too. They traded Luis Garcia, but they held on to Tyler Anderson, Luis Rengifo, Taylor Ward, all three guys who will be there, I believe, for next year and next year only. But on my mind, I'm like, do they really think they can compete next year? Because if not, what are they doing not trading them? So I think it's good for the Mariners because the longer the Angels kind of keep kicking the can down the road, and if they trade those three next year at the deadline, it's going to be for a much diminished return. And, I don't think their farm system's that good. And so that was kind of a puzzling deadline to me, is them not moving anybody unless they're on expiring contracts. And of course, the Rockies traded like some relievers that were kind of no names, but nobody else. And this is kind of, they keep doing their own thing, which is bizarre. So yeah, even
in their own world.
And Oakland traded just a few guys as well, like Paul Blackburn and Mason Miller. So like with the Angels, Oakland, Rockies, even White Sox not trading Crochet or Luis Robert, those were four definitive teams that were out of it, and none of the four really did much of the deadline. And so once again, that's why and I think they were probably expected to do more when people were kind of taking into account how much is going to be moved. But you have these four definitive sellers who kind of sat on their hands. And so once again, that's why there wasn't a ton of people moved, as even the definitive sellers didn't do much. So yeah, thank God the Rays sold, because if they didn't, it would have been a deadline with hardly anything moved, especially on the hitting side. Because after a Rosarina and Paredes, I think Jazz was the best hitter moved, and he's like a 110 WRC plus hitter, right? So if they would have stood pat, it would have been a very kind of dull deadline in terms of impact.
Yeah, I mean, it really, and I think it's still some of that third wild card, not for this year for those teams, but the Angels are, like you said, they kick the can down. Probably think, well, we get Trout back. Yeah, we can be in the mix for that third wild card. Good news is for the Mariners this year, no more Carlos Estevez, no more Luis Garcia. That back end of the bullpen has killed the Mariners from the Angels. So hopefully in the next two series, we can get some W's against them now. But yeah, like, I mean, the Rockies are in their own world. I don't know what they're doing as an organization in general. I know they're one of like the least analytically driven organizations. I'm not saying analytics is the end all be all, but they're wild. I don't know what their game plan is. But that's affects the deadline. Like, you got the Angels and Rockies that both kind of look like teams that are just stuck in the mud and don't really know what to do. And to your point, like, Taylor Ward doesn't move. That would have been a nice option for the M's. I know it's tough in division. So would Rengifo, actually. And, Brandon Drury's been dreadful, but, you maybe would have been able to find something for him. And the A's, I can get a little bit more because Rooker has a lot of club control left. He's dirt cheap. And I trust their front office more than the Angels to actually put a competitor on the field sooner. But even there, didn't trade a lot. So there was just, like you said, if the Rays didn't sell, and to anybody listening, like, you can't force teams to do it. You can try, you can put a presentation together and go, Toronto, you need Cole Young for, you need this. But if they say no, nothing you can do.
Yep. Nope. Completely agree. And the Angels did get big Mike Baumann at the deadline. So he'll probably, I'm sure, close games from now and probably shut us down. So I'm sure that they got some new guys in the bullpen that'll cause issues for us.
Baumann could never get that save, but when he faces the Mariners, he'll find a way to finally get those 3 outs. But I feel a little optimistic about the offense now, and I still stand by my points with the front office. This team's got to get in the postseason. I'm still like, listen, you guys, results have got to happen. So for anybody listening, thinking like, oh man, Jay's back on their side. I like what they did. I like what they did this offseason, but results need to be there. Are you kind of in the same boat?
I agree. What they did this deadline, we both loved it. It doesn't take away from the fact that I think they kind of whiffed this past offseason. And part of that is like, Garver, right? He had kind of a hot streak, but kind of it seemed to revert back to some struggles. Polanco just had a bizarre struggle. So I kind of have a hard time pinning that on them. But once again, the buck kind of stops with them on that. And, just the off, even if we like the team on paper, the off season was a disaster and it caused them to blow a 10-game lead and be barely over 500, right? If the Astros were having a normal season, we could have been sellers. So, I still think they the team needs to play well the second half for them to kind of save their jobs. But I do think they had a very, very productive deadline, kind of all things considered. And, one thing that I love too is, let's see, Rosarena's here for 2.5 years. Chargois will be here next year. Yimmy and Turner were rentals, but Rosarena in particular, the fact we have him next year, that's good. The offense is in a better place, right? There was going to be a lot of black holes going into 2025. He fixes one. If Polanco keeps hitting like he is, they may pick up his club option, and that means he performed well the rest of the year, and I'll feel good about him. So, I think the deadline even sets him up better for 2025, most likely, and hopefully that, John Stanton starts to spend more money, and we can supplement it even further next year without all this trading players, attaching contracts, to try to free up space. It'd be nice just to have an off season where there's none of that and we can just go get the best players available while keeping our depth. But that's just kind of another, I think hidden benefit of this deadline is the fact you do have Randy for the next 2 years after this to kind of lock down that left field spot.
The Astros get a 2-out single. I'm trying to keep the video going so we can celebrate the Mariners back in first place. But no, I think that's a great point with this trade deadline that we hadn't talked about. Rosarena is not a rental. He is here the next 2 years, and that fills a spot. It's not a platoon bat. It's not someone you've got to work around. He is your left fielder now for the next 2 seasons. I would love it if Jimmy Garcia had one more year, but maybe you can work that out and re-sign him.
Right.
Chargois will be here. And truthfully, with Justin Turner, he should be a rental. I like Justin Turner. I'm not exactly wanting 40-year-old Justin Turner on a long-term contract. He's here to fill that first base void because Tyler Locklear just not ready to take the reins. And you hope you get some veteran production. You hope in the playoffs that works. And then listen, maybe if he's good enough, you can throw him a 1-year deal or something if it's needed, but you let him go and enjoy his career. And hopefully he's got another ring to go with it. So no, I think that's a great point that gets forgotten a lot is that, that they've set themselves up nicely. And like you said, with Polanco, he's hitting well enough that you do start thinking about picking up that option maybe. So 2-0 count on, I think it's Trey Cabbage here. Or no, he pinch ran.
Chas McCormick, it looks like.
Chas McCormick. I was trying to extend. You got any more final thoughts on the game or the deadline or anything?
No, while we're trying to extend it, just thinking of next year, one guy I'd love for us to have, and I know he's hated by Mariners fans, would be like an Alex Bregman next year. I know he started off slow, but he doesn't strike out. And I just think like next year, if you could plug that guy at third, JP at short, Polanco at second, Big Dumper at catcher. Is he out? We'll see if they review it.
Yeah. Oh, are they going to review? Of course.
Maybe it was close. It was close. If you could get like Bregman next year on a 3-year, 50. I don't even know where our holes would be. I guess in right field, maybe. I think Rayleigh's kind of turned into like this fourth outfielder, first base option for me. Even though he had a great year last year, I think this year he's kind of proven that like, hey, he still can be a league average bat when he struggles. But that's just one name that when I look at next year's class, I'm like, I wouldn't mind. Hey, let's see. Okay. I'm looking at the replay. Shoot. I think he's safe. Yeah. He's safe.
Come on.
Well, that was a bad angle. Here's a better
Game
one.
Day says ground out. Game Day says it's over. The Pirates have won. But no, I think
he might be out. He might be out.
Okay.
So close.
We want to celebrate this together. Not that we're clinching anything, but it's nice to have that game. And listen, I'm with you on Bregman. I didn't realize he was a free agent, to be honest. I want good baseball players here, and I want guys that can help the Seattle Mariners win ball games. And it's not like Bregman. Listen, don't like the Astros. No offense to the Astros fans watching this and the scandal and everything. It's not like Bregman did something off the field terrible here. It's not like he, I'm not going to get into things, but like it was an on the field thing. You move on. So was he out?
I think he's safe.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's safe. So now we got Altuve coming up. Bregman on deck as the tying run. And they don't have like Bednar, their closer, in, so that's fun.
Who's pitching? Stratton?
Chris Stratton, yeah. Let's see. In the Rangers, did they end up losing?
Yeah, they were getting crushed by St. Louis. Pham hit a grand slam in that game. It is somehow I've got yesterday's scores up here. I don't know why.
And there we go. Twins lost 2-0 to the Mets, which I think they're in the wild card 2 spot, and we're maybe like 2 games behind them now. So obviously, I went the AL West, but if the Astros were to get on a tear, there's a couple wild card spots that are up for grabs as well, which is good. Oh, Bednar, Royals. I bet he comes in if Altuve gets on. God, the Astros can never make it easy. Whenever I watch them, they've always got the tying run at the plate, and it's always like Altuve or Jordan too. It's just
it's never easy. That's what good baseball teams do. They don't go away, and it's amazing how certain teams, like even Boston today, a 7-run lead in the 7th inning, and I'm sweating it out at the end, even in the 9th. And Munoz and Garcia were locked in, so it's something against them. But it's just amazing, what good offenses can do. Kansas City does win. I know they're in that wild card mix. 2-2 on Altuve now. Man, the White Sox 27-83. They have 16 losses in a row. Just absolutely. 27 wins, and we're like in August.
Oh yeah, they're awful. And you watch them, and they're not a good team. But like even Jonathan Cannon hasn't been a bad pitcher. No. So and when I watch them, like I don't understand how they've lost so many games. And like Luis Robert, Gavin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn, like those are decent hitters.
Yeah.
They're not awful. So.
Even, like you said, Crochet, and it's strike 3 called on Altuve. Seattle Mariners are back in first place in the AL West. Right. I think we should just end the season today. I'd be fine with that. I don't know anybody that's opposed to it. So start the playoffs tomorrow.
I'm good. Yep, that works for me.
All right. Well, we wanted to enjoy that with everybody. Did you have any last points you wanted to make?
Nope. Yeah. No. Like I said, I feel good about the deadline. Kind of when Julio gets back, I think we got a really strong top 6 in the lineup. And like I said, even 7, 8, 9, I don't feel awful about with, be Rojas, Demo, and then that DH, something like Vosler, Haniger, Rayleigh, kind of ride the hot hand with those 3 if one of them's hot. And then, the bullpen I feel a lot better about. Hopefully Santos can get dialed in, because if he does, we've got a kind of a 3-headed monster back there. So, feeling good. It feels good to be back in first. Astros have dropped, 2 to the Pirates, which I didn't necessarily see going. So hopefully we can get a series win tomorrow, and maybe them even get swept, and we'll feel real good going into an off day.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And that's a great point actually about that DH role. It's not pretty, but you've got options. At least Rayleigh could play there. Haniger, it's actually been swinging the bat better. I feel like, Garver, if he gets on a little hot streak, you throw him in there, or Vosler. So you at least do have some options. And then the last thing I'll say, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here, is also the best cure for anything. If you're frustrated and like the deadline, I get it. Like I can understand where people are coming from that wanted a little bit more, but the best cure is the wins. And this team has now won 4 to 5 since acquiring a Rosarina. Maybe that's just happenstance and there's nothing to that. Maybe it is. So the bottom line is winning feels good. And today, we'd have liked a little bit more maybe today, but the Mariners get a huge win at Boston. The most important thing is getting those W's on the field. If they keep doing that, this season might end pretty good.
Let's hope so. Yep. Not a ton to go, but still quite a bit of baseball left. So it'll be fun.
The home stretch here. Thank you as always for joining me. I appreciate it, my friend. Always enjoy having you on and going over things and getting to pick your brain on it. So again, anybody watching, hit that like button, comment your thoughts, hit subscribe, and then head over to Twitter. Link will be in the description for MarinersSUR. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy the W. Enjoy the new acquisition. Should be fun. We have a heck of a run coming up here to finish off the season. Let's see if we can finish this off and get an AL West title. Go Mariners. Peace.